welcome back to another episode of Gear 182. This is a cool one. I know there's a lot of talk about Starcasters and Fender Starcasters and Squier Starcasters and whatnot. So personally, I did a little bit of research, obviously, when Tom kind of announced his lineups, and looking in, they actually have some pretty cool history behind the Starcasters in general, and Brian, as you can see in his background, was able to pick one of them up, and as soon as he got it, gave me a call and just said, "This thing is amazing." And the more he talked about it, the more even excited I got, not just for Tom's, but for just the Starcasters in general. So I thought it'd be a pretty cool episode now that Brian actually has it in hand, to kind of talk more about it, a little maybe about the history, the Squier lineups, all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm going to take a step back and listen, because I'm actually really excited to learn some stuff about this. So Brian, over to you for...
Yeah, of course. Obviously, we were interested in this guitar after Tom used it, but there's been a lot of notable artists that have used this guitar. If you were interested in just discussing that in a little bit.
Yeah.
There is... Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead has been seen frequently playing one. Dave Keuring of The Killers, the lead guitarist of The Killers, was known to use one quite often. Let's see, who else is here that is of note? Chris Walla of Death Cab for Cutie. So there's a lot of artists that have been using these. I saw Wes Borland use one. Usually these guys are using the vintage ones because that's, what a lot of famous guys like vintage guitars, but there's some notable artists right there that have used this guitar that we probably didn't even think about.
Yeah.
And,
so true.
Yeah, I'm sure once the Killers were seen playing it, I'm sure a lot of their fans were out buying these guitars. So even though I saw Tom with it and made me want to try one, I'm glad I did, and it's really taught me a lot about these guitars. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so we'll start off kind of, I guess, where it all started was the Fender version of them. So
yeah, the top one there is a vintage one, and the one on the bottom is a 2013 reissue. They're both Fender, but there are some notable differences. So the Starcaster in general was brought out in the 70s. They claim that the first one was made in 1975, but most people will say that the Starcaster was made from 76 to 82. But it came out when Fender was kind of in a down time. It wasn't a very popular time to buy guitars. If you remember, a lot of Fenders are made very poorly. That's when a lot of the hardtail Stratocasters were out. And it was interesting because this vintage one, do you notice that it has a string-through body, and it has 5 knobs, and on the back, if we were to see the back, it's got a 3-way bolt. And the 3-way bolt reminds me of that Telecaster Deluxe that you've seen a lot, that because it's got the wide range pickups, which are a little bit wider than a humbucker, and it has a maple neck with a bullet adjustment at the head, just like the Starcaster, with a 3 bolt neck. And what was interesting is this is a hollow body with the bolt-on neck. That's not a common thing to do. Also, with the 6-line tuners, usually it's Gibsons. They have both sides of the headstock, and honestly, back then, this guitar was not that popular. That's why it didn't stick around very long. That's why even today, you can buy a vintage one for a decent price. There was some demand for this guitar to come back. It came back in 2013. I tried researching it a little bit, and I believe they were only made for that year, maybe 2. But here's what's going to kill you about this thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a Squier spoiler to this. You're like, you and me, Stefan, have bought a lot of like Fenders and Squiers, and we just think, oh, I'd rather have the Fender. Hands down, I'd rather have the Fender. Well, guess what? This Fender that was issued in 2013 was crafted in China. And I've not heard of a lot of these like Fender branded stuff made in China. Usually you hear about it being Squier.
Yeah.
Well, these cheaper Squiers are made in Indonesia. And just based off, forums on the internet, the way people's reviews have come out, you've probably heard that a guitar made in Korea or Indonesia usually ends up being better than one made in China.
Yeah.
So that alone, I'm just like, wow, I kind of would rather have the Squier than having Fender on the headstock. There was a rumor of a Starcaster bass, and only prototypes were made. And I thought it was kind of funny because on the prototype of the bass, it just says Fender. And that's what Tom says. So it was kind of like, oh, is that the thing they do for the prototype Starcasters? The headstock is kind of unique. Now, people either love it or hate it. I'm kind of indifferent because I hated it at first. It kind of reminded me of a charcuterie board, like a cheese slicer. But
now that's all I see when I see it.
Yeah, but when you see it in person, it kind of works. Like, when you look at a picture of just the headstock, it doesn't. And I do admit it is cool with the Strat headstock on there, but like, it honestly kind of works. It goes with the flow of the body. It's a German cut. It's some kind of German design on the headstock, and it's just been that way since the 70s. And these have always had either maple or roasted maple necks. They've never had any form of rosewood. It's just how they've always been done. Every version of this guitar so far. It is comparable, as you know, to like a 335, but it's an offset. So it's like a Jazzmaster, how a Jazzmaster is offset. And obviously there's a bunch of like smaller brand names, but as far as the big name brand guitars, this is the only hollow body offset guitar that we've seen. So how cool is that? You're getting a guitar that's uniquely designed because it's offset, but it's hollow, but it's made by Fender. It's got a Tune-o-matic style bridge on it. And just like a Gibson would, it's got the F holes, no back plate, unless you've got, the Squier with the actives. It's a really unique, interesting guitar. And the pickups, just compare them to like a 72 Tele Deluxe, like what Derek of Sum 41 would play before he upgraded it. Like the standard 72 Deluxe has the wide range pickups in there.
So the fifth knob on the vintage at the top, that's I guess just the master volume.
Master volume. So it's got volume tone, and then another master volume. It's kind of cool, and it's only on the vintage that way.
Yeah.
I believe that was the only difference is cool.
Oh, that is cool. So the 2013s, it was just the year that was it. You think?
I think it was only 2013, maybe a little bit into 14, but all I could find was just a very short run when they reissued them again for what we'll call Fender, China Fender.
Yeah. So then after 2013...
Fast forward to around 2018, 19, somewhere around there, and we get the Squier version. Is that your next slide? Cool. Yeah. So there's the classic vibe that's on the far left. There's the Affinity version. There's a contemporary. And then there's this Guitar Center, I think it's an exclusive, and it's like a satin of the contemporary. And so you can see the prices. It's like around $400 for the classic vibe, $300 for the Affinity. So the difference between these two, like I wrote down some of the features on my phone. 22 frets on all of them. They're narrow tall on all of them. The fretboard radius is 9.5 on the classic vibe and the Affinity. But on the contemporary, think of this more like a metal guitar. It's got active pickups in it. It has a 12-inch radius. That means it's flatter. The curvature is flatter for shredding. I believe they all have around a C-shaped neck. Scale length is 25.5. So if you were to have a 335 and this, just keep in mind it's got a longer neck or scale length. I shouldn't even say neck if you don't include the headstock, but like the scale length will be longer, so it might be a bigger stretch if you're doing some chords. More like a Stratocaster, 25.5. The bridge is the Gibson Tune-o-matic style bridge, and it comes standard with 9-gauge strings. So the first one on the left is the classic vibe, and notice it's $100 difference. Well, what are you getting with the classic vibe versus the Affinity? You get the wide range pickups, you get a pick guard, you get a gloss finish, and then the neck is roasted maple and it's gloss as well. If you go to the Affinity version, which is the white one behind me, and on that screen it's black, they have like red, black, sunburst, and white. It does have binding on it. Mine has black binding. It's got, it is a gloss finish, but the neck is a satin. And then the pickups are uncovered. Now here's the biggest difference if people are learning guitar, if they're modding them, trying to make them look like toms. You can't do it with the classic vibe. Like, let's say you really like that maroon color or the natural and you want to get the best and you get the classic vibe. It's got wide range pickups. You can't put a Seymour Duncan SH5 or SH4 or Dirty Fingers in there. It won't fit unless you get some kind of special brace or bracket, kind of like what Derek Tech, I'm assuming, does, unless he gets the pick guard readjusted. It's just, you have to consider that. If you're going to mod, you're probably going to have to get the Affinity version or the Contemporary. The Contemporary also has the standard pickup route, but it has active pickups in it. So that means it has a battery box on the back and back plates. Notice it also has no F-holes.
Yeah.
F-hole. And the reason for this, you're like, why would they not put F-holes on it? Usually in metal, it's like tighter, you know? It's more digital. It's more together. There's not that open airiness that you hear in rock and roll. It's more of just like a crunch, tight, fast sound. So you need all that air contained. Now, I know these are Squiers, and I'm talking like these are just like master works of art with air. But, I mean, I'm sure it makes a difference. What's cool about the Contemporary here is it also has, if you know the Jim Root Strat, how it has that, like, cutaway where you can reach up the neck and you can get the high frets and the plate is kind of cut a little bit. It's got that on there, too. So it's made to shred. It's got the flatter radius fretboard. It's got the active pickups. It's got the cutaway there. And what's cool, it doesn't show it in this photo, but the headstock has that little stripe on it like the Fender ones do, but it matches the color. So that one's Shoreline Gold, the third one right above me. And then it's got this like Shoreline Gold like stripe. And then the one that's like right next to me on that side, it's the Affinity headstock, and it doesn't have a stripe, but it's just because they're trying to save money and make it a little more affordable. And then the one on the far right, closest to you, is just, I think it's a Guitar Center exclusive Contemporary with a satin black. It's pretty cool, though.
That is,
So if I were to recommend one for modding, you've got to get either the Affinity or the Contemporary. Probably the Affinity, because you want the F-holes if you're trying to do like the tom thing. But just keep in mind, in order to change the pickup, it has no backplate. You're either going to have to pull everything through the F-hole, or you're going to have to cheat, cut the wire, splice it with a new pickup. Because it's hard. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you do with a Gibson 335. And people say, why don't they do this? Why do they not put backplates on these guitars? It's so unfair. Well, it's for tone reasons. Some people don't believe in tone woods and sounds from having a complete flush piece of wood on the back compared to a giant plastic plate. I personally think it makes a difference, but it depends on your style of music too. If you're just loading up tons of gain and crunch, like Blink or something, it doesn't matter, I guess. But if you got a wide range of music you're trying, it might make a difference having plastic on the back. Now, if you're worried about the plastic on the Contemporary, it's an active pickup guitar anyway. It's digital. It doesn't really matter the same. But those are just my opinions. Everybody's got one, right?
So we get a lot of questions about it too, of if I buy a Starcaster, you know, which one is it? Just like you were saying, which one is the best one to mod? So, you know, the two that I think we both kind of think of is the two that you just said, the one that you have behind you, I think would probably be the best. I mean, Tom has that Olympic white Starcaster hanging there
Right.
with the black outlines that this one does come with. But if you really want that surf green look, you can get the surf green
Right.
contemporary ones. So I think
And
there's quite a bit of options, I think, out there right now for Starcasters. Pretty cheap
yeah, I
too.
just want to say that the green one, when you go to Guitar Center and look for it, it's not there. They only have Shoreline Gold and this blue color. I'm slightly thinking that green is going away. It's Surf Pearl. I did see them on Amazon for $3.99. So if you want a Surf Pearl one, I would recommend to get it quick
Jump
because
on
I'm
it,
thinking
yeah.
that color is probably going away.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, like you said, easy to mod too, right? You can throw in one of those SH5s in the bridge pretty easily, and
Yeah,
you're good
you
to
could throw
go.
one in if you like the JB. That's my favorite pickup. You can
Yeah,
put one of those, or even be crazy, put a Dirty Fingers in there, and you're probably gonna get some cool tones out of it.
yeah.
Just keep
So
in mind that maple necks make a slight tonal difference.
yeah, we talked about that in an earlier video with the yellow subcaster.
Yeah,
So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
yeah.
You
I
know,
can talk
maybe
about
if you want
my
to,
personal.
yeah, maybe you want to bring it down, you can show it.
So,
So it's
so you
pretty
can
cool.
see. Yeah, okay. So the one thing I wanted to show, obviously, like people aren't really sure of the lighting that I have in here. So I just have like a white piece of paper. And notice this is Olympic white, but it's still like not bright white. Like it's kind of like a little bit of an off-white. But I really like the color.
Yeah,
Also, I wanted to note how it's got contouring. A lot of people were like, is it flat on the front? Is it? No, it's actually
that's
got
crazy. Yeah,
great contouring, and it's got contouring on the back. And notice it doesn't have any cutaway. It does have a Squier plate there. This is a satin finish on the neck. The binding looks so cool.
yeah,
I put the Schaller strap pins on it. This one is right here, which works great. Tom's is
yeah,
actually just they put one of the pins like on the back of the
yeah.
plate there, so it's kind of like a Gibson. And then you can see it's got these pickups, which are the Squier designed ones. If I was gonna say one negative thing about this guitar, it would probably be the tone of the pickups, but they're definitely hot. This one measured at 16 ohms, and I believe this one was around 12. I don't use the neck a whole lot, but it was not the same as this one. This one was definitely super hot, like a Dirty Fingers, 16 ohms.
That's crazy.
But the problem was just the quality just wasn't as crisp and clean as like an Invader or a Dirty Fingers or a JB. But you know, if you like this guitar, I love this guitar. I was thinking about putting a different pickup in there. Notice the bridge looks a lot like a Gibson Tune-o-matic. It even screws two posts in the body instead of like an ABR1 directly to the wood, which is great. But it faces the other way. The adjustments are at the top instead of the bottom. The no sticker in the F holes. If anybody thought they were copying Gibson on that, all the wires are hidden really well, which I thought was impressive because it always kind of looks bad if you see a ton of wires there. Volume, tone, switch, middle, neck. It's got 22 frets here, maple neck. Here's the headstock that everybody hates, but honestly, you kind of get used to it. And the tuners here, pretty basic Squier ones. You could change those out for locking or whatever. This is a 2022 model. It says Fender on the back. Yeah, everything's great. The only other thing I wanted to show is just kind of like how big it is. It's kind of like a 335, but it feels a little smaller. Very good weight, probably about 7.5 pounds. And then if you wanted to see, I have a Tom DeLonge Strat neck here. You can just kind of visualize what it would look like. So you can see.
Is it the same holes for the neck and the?
Yeah, remember how we talked about how the Tom's actual custom shop Starcasters have a custom neck pocket? I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I haven't swapped it yet. I think I'm gonna do it next time I have strings just to try it. I'm pretty sure. Look at that. Tom DeLonge Fender made Mexico neck and the Starcaster neck. Looks like the exact same thickness. 4-bolt. It would go right in there. The only thing that you would have to worry about is you couldn't use like an American neck that has kind of the fretboard that hangs over. You would have to use one that's flush like that. So either a Squier or like a made in Mexico Fender that's like that, or a vintage Fender neck. But I wouldn't recommend like a USA Strat neck because it has the bleed over is what you would call it, I guess.
Yeah,
and it would hang over to that pickup too far. It would just be so tacky. You need that like
in the space. Yeah. It really does look like
the input jack. It's on the side.
That's crazy.
It's just
it really does look like a 335. Like when you if you hold it from the side, like it's I can definitely see what Fender was trying to do in the 70s to replicate that kind of same thing. I think honestly, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job on it.
Yeah,
especially the Squier version. Like it's unreal.
Sold me.
Yeah,
honestly, if they had a white without a pick guard, I would have been like, but it's $300, and honestly, it is probably my review for this. Here you go. It's the best like $300 guitar I've ever had for sure. Yeah. If I was gonna change something, I would change the pickup. And if you change the pickup, it's phenomenal. Like it would be such an awesome guitar. It's already really awesome anyways. It's got really good acoustics. The neck feels good. It doesn't have buzz. Like it's just, I had to set it up, but it just worked perfectly. And so I highly recommend this guitar if you want to try one. If you want to swap the neck, cool. If you want to swap the pickup, cool. But for $300, I mean, they're selling, like we were talking about in our first video, the Emily Wolf Epiphone. It's $900 and it's made in China. This is $300 and made in Indonesia.
Yeah, that's crazy. That really is.
Squier is just knocking it out of the park. Like I never thought I was gonna buy a Squier again once I started buying like USA guitars, but man, it's phenomenal. Highly recommend. If you could put like a stamp, Gear 182 approves. So yeah, that's my review.
That's awesome. I'm honestly, I've been on the fence with it. I've also been on the fence with doing the whole Mooncaster build that they have on Warmouth. So you know, for anyone watching, if you did make Mooncaster Warmouth, please send it to us. I'd love to see some of the designs you guys are making, because I think it's going to be a pretty big hit, especially with Tom now having these in his hands. So one last thing before we go, we do have a quick video demonstration of Brian with the Starcaster, so we'll play it right after this. But anything that you want to say before we go to the video?
Yeah, just enjoy the video. I had to do like I'm saying, like the pickup's not terrible, but I wanted to get to actually use this guitar and record with it just a little, and it's just a 30-second clip of me playing Sum 41. But I tried to turn up the guitar a little bit more so you could hear the tone of it with the crunch, and the part that's just the chords in the chorus sound really good to me, but when you do some of the crunching, it's just not as tight as I personally would want it to be. I had to adjust everything, but I think it still sounds pretty good. But hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of what this guitar can do. If you have any questions, hit us up. And as always, Stefan, take us home.
Yeah, again, guys, I really appreciate all the support that you guys are giving. And and just like Brian said, if you have any questions about the Starcaster or what have you, just shoot us a message on Instagram. We're pretty quick to reply. So until the next video, we will see you all then. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and bye for now.
Bye.